everybody and welcome back to my channel, Books with Leo, and today I am here with my March wrap-up. I'm going to be talking about every single book I've read in March. I had quite a good reading month, actually. I think I read 10 books, which is really nice because last month in February I only read a few, which was still fine, but I do enjoy reading a lot of books. A lot of these books I've been reading for a long time, hence why I didn't finish them before, because they were a little bit like bigger books, and then I finished all of them in March, so that's what happened. Without any further ado, let's just get right into the video. So the first book I want to talk about, I've talked about already a little bit, I think in some vlogs, or maybe it was one of my currently reading videos, I'm not entirely sure, but that is The Witches of New York by Amy Mckay. This is a historical sort of urban fantasy, I would say, because it is about witches and it is also a historical story, so it's a historical setting. It's basically about these three witches and they all have different powers. They live together in New York, they have this little tea shop where they do magic, and in that sense it's definitely a sort of comforting book. Like, it had some sort of Studio Ghibli vibes but a bit darker, and it's very, I don't know, it's sort of cozy and homey, but it has some spookier undertones. So like atmosphere wise it was right up my alley and I really enjoyed that, but story and plot wise I felt a little bit lost in this book, honestly, because a lot of the times I felt like the plot only sort of came together at the end and some of the character motivations were a bit weird and it just dragged on a bit, you know? It was like 500 pages or so, and I think for a book that long it should have had more plot. So I have heard that there's also a novella of this story and these characters, so I'm definitely going to be picking that up because I did really enjoy the setting and the characters and the whole vibe of the book, like I said already. So all in all, I enjoyed this book. It was like a successful read, I would say, but it wasn't a new favourite or anything. I think I gave it 3 or 4 stars, something like that. Then a book that is definitely a new favourite is Letters to a Young Poet by Reiner Maria Rilke. Oh my god, I did not expect to love this book, but I absolutely adore it. It's so good. I never expected to read a book written by a German man in 1902 or 1903 and to be like, that is so relatable. But it did happen, and it happened with this book. This is basically a collection of letters that the poet Reiner Maria Rilke wrote to one of his friends, I think, or maybe one of his sort of apprentices. Not entirely sure. I forgot already. But I've been annotating it and I've read it 2 times already because I just liked it so much. It's a very dramatic book, but it has a lot of wisdom. And I firstly listened to the audiobook, but that was so good. Like, it was very dramatic and it made me feel like I was in this sort of dramatic movie with a voiceover, which I really enjoyed. Like, I went out for a bagel and some coffee and I was listening to that audiobook and I felt like I was absolutely the it girl. So that was a great reading experience. And then I immediately, like literally immediately zoomed off to the bookstore to buy the actual book. And then I also wanted to buy some copies for my friends because I liked it that much. And these tiny books are only like €3 or so. So yeah, and then I ended up reading it again and annotating it, so that's what I did. And let me just read some of my favourite quotes to you, and I think that will sort of explain what this book is sort of about, like what the whole vibe is. Or well, maybe I should explain it first. I don't know. Anyway, basically it's like, if you're an artist, if you're an author, if you're a painter, if you do anything creative at all, you will really relate to this, because it's basically just letters to young artists. I mean, it's literally called Letters to a Young Poet, so I guess you already grasped that. I'll just get into reading it now. Be patient towards all that is unresolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves like locked rooms, like books written in a foreign tongue. Do not now strive to uncover answers. They cannot be given you because you have not been able to live them. And what matters is to live everything. Live the questions for now. Perhaps then you will gradually, without noticing it, live your way into the answer, one distant day in the future. That is so good. I'm like flabbergasted at how beautiful that is. And it's just something that I struggle with a lot with my anxiety. Like, there's so many things I don't know in life and I always feel like I should just sort of keep thinking about them until I figure them out, and this bit of text just told me no. Like, no, don't do that. Just live your life and you'll learn the lessons along the way. Oh my god. Anyway, I can keep gushing about this book forever and ever and ever, but it's such a short book, so I don't want to spoil too much for you. If you like dramatic quotes and hidden wisdom, then I would highly recommend it, and it's also a nice quick read. Then I finally finished Special Topics in Calamity Physics, which I had been reading for a very long time, I think for over half a year or something. I also feel like I keep bringing up this book in every single video just because I've been reading it for such a long time. So I want to go over it like a bit more quick this time. This is a very big sort of dark academia / mystery / I don't know what the hell's going on book. It has very beautiful prose. The sentences are very long. If you like the way Donna Tartt writes, I think you would enjoy this. Also, if you like Marcus Zusak and stuff like that, I think maybe this might also be up your alley. It's very slow, it's a bit messy, all the characters are horrible people, most of them, but all of them are very intriguing as well. It's basically about Blue and her dad, and they move all across the country because her dad is a professor, and you basically read about her life, the mysterious death of her mother, the mysterious death of one of her teachers, and sort of the dark academia group surrounding that. And it's very much set in academia. It's also sort of, I don't know, there's like some scenes in Paris, there's some hidden societies and weird stuff going on. It's very good, but it's also very slow and it dragged on in certain bits. This seems to be my critique on all the books I read. But yeah, it just, at some points I was like, where's the plot? Like, is there a plot? Is it just vibes? I don't know. But at other points, the plot was coming through, like especially towards the end. I did enjoy it, but again, like not a new favourite, but the writing style was so good that in the beginning I was like, ooh, this might be a new favourite, because I really enjoy the way it was written very poetically and stuff. So yeah, that's this one. If you want to know more about this book, like I think my last 3 or 4 videos also mention it, so check one of those out. Then I picked up some poetry. I listened to Essential Bukowski Poetry by Charles Bukowski, and I liked it. Surprise, surprise. I haven't read a lot of poetry that I really liked in my lifetime, but I enjoyed this, which was a big surprise to me as well, believe me. So I'm really happy I picked it up. I don't really remember what it was about, to be honest. I just remember that there's some very coarse poetry in there, and it can be a bit rough around the edges sometimes, but it's very funny and it's very, like, I don't know, witty. I enjoyed it. And the audiobook, the nice thing is, like, you don't have to keep your attention to it the whole time because it's, like, short poems. So if you forget what happened in the last poem, it's okay. The only result will be that you barely remember anything about it. Like me now. I definitely want to pick up a physical copy of this sometime soon because I want to read more poetry anyway. So if you have any poetry recommendations for me, definitely let me know as well. And then after this, I picked up a Dutch book for my work, and that was The Knacks Waarheid by Josephine Dalemance. I think this was by a Belgian author. Originally. I don't think it has been translated, but it was very good. So if you speak Dutch, highly recommend. I think it's also quite doable if you're not fluent in Dutch because it's not a super difficult book. So it's basically a non-fiction feminist book about the female body, and it's basically all about how every single part of the female body has been a political playfield at a certain point in time, and it was so well done. She starts writing about the feet and then she sort of works her way up through all the different body parts, and in every chapter she discusses the ways that this body part has been taken away from women, has been mutilated, has been, you know, a point of discussion at some point in time. And she also includes some very interesting facts about this. It was very educational and it was funny at the same time. I think she has this sort of sharp wit that made me have a good time reading this. So yeah, I enjoyed this read. Then I picked up a graphic novel. It had been a while since I read a graphic novel I really liked, and this was Miss Don't Touch Me by Hubert. And yeah, it was very, I don't know, like it was cool. I liked the art style, kind of rough but playful. Very colourful, like very set colour schemes. I enjoyed that, but at the same time, the story kind of went all over the place. This was like a collective volume, so it's several volumes collected into one, and I felt like there was a lot of different storylines at certain points, and I was just getting like overwhelmed with all of them. It's basically about a girl whose sister gets murdered when there's also a serial killer on the loose, and she's absolutely certain that this serial killer killed her sister, but nobody believes her, so she joins this sort of brothel to work there and to then figure out what happened to her sister because she found some ties to the brothel. There was a lot of interesting characters I liked. What I liked most about this is that the main character is kind of not a good person a lot of the time. She's very messy, she's kind of rude and mean, and she's absolutely ruthless, and yeah, that just was a fun time to read about that. Then I picked up an essay collection, and that was The Wreckage of My Presence by Casey Wilson. I also talked about this book in my last vlog. This essay collection basically talks about all sorts of different things, about having children, about grief, about relationships to your mother, about going into therapy, stand-up comedy. It also talks about parties and social stuff. There was lots of different essays in here. I really enjoyed Casey Wilson's narrating style because I listened to the audiobook, and I think you can really hear that she's a comedian and she's used to doing stand-up, you know, and it's really enjoyable to listen to. If you want to know more about my in-depth thoughts on this book, you can definitely check out my last vlog because it also talks about it in there. In the middle of the book, I was kind of like not sure whether I felt absolutely comfortable with the way Casey Wilson writes about her body and stuff like that, because she can be very negative, and sort of the diet culture aspect, I wasn't sure whether I thought that was handled well. But then later on in the book, she went into it more and sort of shared more of her own experience that made me understand more why she views certain things in a certain way. And also she talked about how therapy affected her and stuff like that, and that was really interesting. So I thought in the end, like altogether, it was really well done. And yeah, she actually wrote about it really well, and it was very witty all the same. And yeah, really enjoyed this read. And then I also listened to I Was Born for This by Alice Oseman, which was also discussed in my last vlog. This is a contemporary story. I love everything Alice Oseman writes. It's not a secret. I can't help myself. I just really enjoy a lot of the things that they write. This is a story of Angel Rahimi and also of Jimmy Kagarichi, and Jimmy is famous. He's in a boy band, and Angel is the biggest fan ever of this boy band, or maybe I should say Faraj Day, because that's actually her name. Angel goes to the concert and she goes there with her best friend, who she's known through the internet, and there's some things about female friendship there and about Angel meeting her internet friends for the first time. But Jimmy has a lot of anxiety, and it's basically about sort of these two storylines merging. So it gave me a lot of fan fiction vibes, you know, but at the same time it was about mental health, like in a lot of Alice Oseman's books. The characters were very lovable. It's just the plot that I had some issues with. Like, the plot felt kind of, I don't know, it just felt like it was sort of all over the place. Why is that my critique for all of these books? I don't know. Anyway, I had a good time reading this and I did enjoy it, and definitely is very strong on the mental health subjects, so it was handled very well, especially some of the panic attacks and stuff like that. Relatable. I enjoyed it. Then I also finally finished Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. This is Throne of Glass book 4. I've been reading Throne of Glass with two of my best friends recently, and I'm really enjoying it. I can't say a lot about this without spoiling the first 3 books, so again, check out my vlog where I talk about this in depth more. I enjoyed this. I mostly really enjoyed the Manon Blackbeak storyline. And yeah, I think Kale is absolutely annoying and I want him gone, and I'm not reading the book that's entirely about Kale because I just can't bring myself to do that. I love Dorian, and yeah, I think that's all I have to mention about this book. Brief synopsis on the first book is about Selena Sadothian, who's an amazing serial killer. Well, she's not a serial killer, she's an assassin. I should say assassin, that sounds a lot better. She's a famous assassin, and she's sort of in this competition to become the king's champion, so the king's assassin. And then there's also sort of a love triangle thing going on between the guard guy and the crown prince, and yeah, there's a lot of magic, there's fae, there's witches, and it's really cool. And yeah, that's all I have to say about this. Check out my vlogs for my more in-depth thoughts. This whole video is just a pitch for you to watch my vlogs. Okay, and then the last book I've read this month was The Martian by Andy Ware. I'm super late to the party, like, not as if I'm not late to the party with Throne of Glass, but at least that's just because my friends picked it up. But with The Martian, it's been recommended to me on BookTube and on YouTube, like, by my viewers as well, 1,000 times, but I just never picked it up until now. I was like really in a sci-fi mood, so I decided to pick it up, and it was so good. Like, I know you guys have told me it's really good for a long time, but I just didn't believe you, I guess. This was such a fun book, very science-based and very witty, like so funny. So it's basically about Mark Watney, who's an astronaut, and he's on a mission on Mars, but then he gets left behind on Mars. He's the only astronaut that gets left behind on Mars, and the rest goes back home, like, due to an accident, like, not on purpose, obviously. And so this is all about him trying to survive on Mars, and it's just, oh my god, the stakes were so high, it was action all the time, it was so good, and just very science-based. So if you like science and chemistry, I think you would also adore this book. And super witty. And I really want to watch the movie as well now, because my sister was like, I've seen that movie. Anyway, my camera battery is empty, so I should wrap this up quickly. Hope you enjoy the video. I'll see you guys next time. Bye! Thanks for watching!